I'm Josh Arcus from Brown Harris Stevens, and today we'll be sitting down with real estate attorney Adam Turk. Also, I'll be sharing with you one of my favorite recipes for Challah French Toast at our listing on 57th and Park on the 50th floor, which is a 5,000 square foot, 5-bedroom home. This is Hot Kitchens. The first step is to buy your favorite challah. Slice it into nice thick pieces. Take your eggs, milk, mix them in a bowl, and then add in vanilla and cinnamon. My hot tip this week is that my favorite appliance when I'm making something with eggs is that I use a milk frother actually to finish whipping the eggs up. It gets it a lot more smooth than just using a regular whisk, and I use it at the end, especially in this case, because I have to mix in the cinnamon and the vanilla. If you happen to have more than one milk frother at home, you might want to make sure to label the one you use for eggs, like I do. Make sure you let the challah really soak up the mixture of eggs and milk. Preheat your pan, make sure to butter your pan and add the butter, but make sure it's not too hot, otherwise the butter will burn. After about 60 seconds, flip the challah and cook the other side. Cook it until the outside is nice and crunchy, and the longer you leave it on, the more the inside will cook. If you like it to be doughy, take it off soon. Coming up next, we're gonna sit down with Adam Turk, a real estate attorney, and ask him a couple of pressing questions on hot kitchens. Hey Adam, thanks for joining us. I hope you enjoy my Challah French Toast.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks for having me. It absolutely smells delicious. Looking forward to digging in.
All right.
I think you might have a career in this.
In the kitchen, what is the one appliance you can't live without?
So I would say I actually have two answers. There's like my quote unquote fancy answer, which I would say is a nice coffee station. You know, for me in the morning, a nice coffee station, it's just, you know, you wake up, it starts your day off right. The other more utilitarian answer would be, I would say, is a garbage disposal. That's something I did not know I needed. And then once I realized I did not love, you know, cleaning the dishes and, you know, having to scoop everything in the garbage, now it goes right in the garbage disposal and we're good to go.
Is there a legal reason why we can't have garbage disposals that often in New York City, or is that just a function of?
I think it's more just a function of, you know, people don't want to, you know, garbage disposals can cause injuries. So I think the lawyers always just tell you to stay away from them, but you know.
In all of New York City or all of the world, what's your favorite restaurant?
So my go-to restaurant, if I had, you know, one meal left, I don't know if this there's a place in Williamsburg called Gottlieb's.
Okay.
I don't know if you've been, it's the greatest chicken cutlet I've ever had. It is when they say Jewish deli, this is the Jewish-ish deli that you could imagine. I mean, you go there, it looks like the place has not changed in 30 years. The same people have been working there. I don't even look at the health grade, doesn't matter to me. I just know I go in there and it is absolutely delicious.
If you were gonna make a dream kitchen, or if you've seen a kitchen that is your dream kitchen, what's there? What does it look like?
So I think I've been, you know, lucky. I've been able to do, you know, apartments with some very, very nice kitchens that I've seen. See, the nicest one I think I probably ever did was when they were doing Central Park Tower, and we saw, you know, that kitchen. That was incredible with the vein matched marble and just everything. But other than the appliances and even the aesthetic, for me also a kitchen, especially in New York City, it's a lot about the view, right? You know, I want to be able to, you know, sit at my kitchen table and look out. So I would say the other nicest one I've seen, one of my clients had in 15th Central Park West, where their apartment was right over the tree line. I don't remember, I think it was maybe the 5th floor or something like that. And when you're sitting at the kitchen, all you see was just right over the tree line, Central Park. It was beautiful.
Awesome. A couple of years ago, everyone was talking about this new law in New York City about people being able to use gas stoves. Can you just explain that to us? Is that for all buildings, new buildings? Can you put a gas stove in where there's already one now? I think there's a lot of confusion there.
Yeah, so it's for new construction, right? It's for our new builds. They were trying to outlaw putting in new gas stoves. If you already have a gas stove in your apartment and you're renovating your apartment, yes, you can put in another gas stove. Originally, you know, there was a lot of pushback about it, but to be honest with you, a lot of my clients nowadays, even with the new construction coming up, induction cooking has come such a long way.
Yeah.
that there's really not much of a difference. And, a lot of people actually say it's safer if they're gonna have kids around and things like that. So it hasn't really, none of my clients have really complained about it that often.
Not had a huge impact.
Yeah, it has not had a huge impact on our business. And even moving forward, like I said, if you have a gas stove there for the foreseeable future, you can replace it with a gas stove.
Right. Do you think there's gonna be a time when you can't?
I didn't think there would be a time that they would outlaw them. So, predicting the future with this administration or whatever the next administration, who knows? I could see maybe in the future, but I could say, with other laws, they haven't really gone and backdated some other things. So I don't really predict that they would do that anytime soon.
Got it. You must have worked on hundreds, if not thousands of transactions at this point in your career as a real estate attorney. What would you say is one of the things that people often miss when they're looking at an apartment? They're either buying a resale or they're buying a new development, and the kitchen is where people spend a lot of their money and a lot of their time. What do people miss?
So in terms of missing, there are two ways. So it's missing in terms of emotionally. A lot of people, when they're starting to look at apartments, I found our clients, especially if they're coming from a house, the two things they miss the most are counter space and a pantry, right? People don't realize, they're like, okay, this is great. Even if they have the counter space, they're like, but where's my pantry? Where am I gonna keep all the stuff? In terms of missing mistakes, I would say, is that when they're going into it, a lot of times they don't take into account how much things cost to repair. Like for instance, let's say, your stove is broken and you're like, okay, it's a $30 part and normally have a handy. Well, once you get into the city, yes, the part might be the same, but I mean, as you know, to even get someone to walk into your apartment is going to cost whatever amount, hundreds of dollars. And then if you need to remove something, to get that removed is going to be hundreds of dollars. So it's not necessarily the appliance itself that is the major expense. It could be getting it in and out, installing it, having to deal with the building in terms of insurance and things like that.
Right. And also, I've heard a number of stories recently about once you replace an appliance, sometimes they make you replace the entire connection to that appliance all the way to the building's riser.
Yes. So they don't realize going into it, to them, having this book is not a big deal because let's say they were, they'll just buy a new one. They don't realize everything that goes along with it. It's not, it's not as simple as just, popping out a light bulb and putting in another one.
Yeah. I once had a stove in a kitchen that should not have even been where it was. And who knows what gas line situation there was that led to it, but that person was gonna have to move it all the way back.
Well, it's fine. So even speaking of kitchens, the other thing is, if you're going into something, especially a house, and they had redone the kitchen, you have to pull the permits, right? You have to make sure that everything was done correctly. You don't want to, we once had where everything was done and we looked at the permits and technically the permits were there, but what they had done was they actually didn't put the kitchen where they said they were going to put the kitchen. They put it in a different place and it was slightly below grade and the kitchen itself was illegal. And thankfully we found that out before we got into contract, but things like that could easily be missed.
So in your role as a real estate attorney, I'm sure you've had this happen a number of times. What's the worst version that you can think of that fits the saying, too many cooks in the kitchen?
So what frustrates me as a real estate attorney is when the attorney on the other side decides that they want to pretend to be the broker, right? For me as a real estate attorney, there are certain things I am concerned about, right? The legal part of it, making sure that everything that was agreed upon gets into the contract, that the due diligence is done, that my clients are happy. But then, my client will come to me, they'll ask me a question, or, I'll have the other day, I was talking to the other lawyer and the lawyer says, well, my client, something like that, this isn't a good deal for them. I'm like, whoa. You're not the broker here. The price to you is not relevant, at least for me. Also, same thing, when my clients ask me, a lot of things will ask me, hey, Adam, do you think I'm getting a good deal? I'm like, I don't know. The price to me, it's, if you think you're getting a good deal, I don't know if it's a good deal or not. They're like, well, you see this every day. Well, I do, but I don't really concentrate on the price of an apartment because the legal work is really the same, right? If the apartment is $1 million, $5 million, 10, 20 million, I'm doing the same due diligence, right? I'm it's just as important to my client. It's not like the more expensive apartments, the clients are more important. It's going to be just as important to every client. To every client, it's a very big purchase.
Right.
So that's our mentality. So that's when the too many cooks come in. Another thing, a horror, I guess, kitchen story that we have is my client was, they were buying a townhouse, and the kitchen in there was okay, but they were very into cooking. So they already knew that they were going to rip it out. They were putting in this super duper upscale gourmet kitchen. They were going to spend a lot of money on it. And the seller knew this too. So the seller just asked, they're like, hey, these appliances are fine. What are you doing with them? My client's like, I don't know, I'm throwing it out. He's like, do you mind if I just take them? And my client is a nice guy. He was like, sure, don't mind if you take them. And then throughout the process, we're about ready to close. And about a couple weeks before closing, my client decided to change lenders. So they changed lenders and they had to get another appraisal. The appraiser goes in there,
gone.
The whole kitchen's gone. So the appraiser's like, I can't do this. And then what happened was, so they had to bring all the appliances back in, basically hook them up. The appraiser had to come back in. So that's my horror story when it comes to
trying to do too much.
Exactly. My client was just trying to be a nice guy and then ended up costing time and energy.
Keep it simple.
That's what it is.
Keep it simple.
Just keep it simple. And if you're going to give someone, tell them you can have it, take it after closing.
Yeah, exactly. Adam, thank you so much for joining us. Hope to see you around soon.
Thanks for having me. Hopefully I'll get invited to dinner soon.
Thank you for joining us. Come back soon for more recipes and conversation. This is Hot Kitchens on the Moore Network, powered by Brown Harris Stevens.